Welcome back, comic readers. So I gave myself a challenge this month. Pick a book that I know nothing about and wasn't the least bit interested in by the cover and see if I like it. So let's find out if I did. Right. So the comic I ended up choosing was, let's bring it up here, The Wonder Twins. First volume called Activate by Mark Russell, illustrated by Stephen Byrne. It's a DC comic, superhero comic, about two twin aliens who are sent to Earth, and they're going to high school and interning at the Justice League, with the Justice League. So, why wasn't I interested? I don't know why. Twin high schools. I'm older, so twin high school superheroes. I don't know. Just doesn't appeal to me. The hair. What is that hair? But I decided to read it anyway. I was like, I'm gonna challenge myself just to see if I like it, and I did. I ended up liking it. It's actually very funny, like storytelling. A lot of self-deprecating humor. They make fun of superheroes, villains, our society, and each issue kind of tells a different story, tackles a different issue. I would say kind of like high school living in the first issue, and then you get some bigger social issues in the last couple. You could tell they're all like written together back to back, so it's a continuous story, although each issue kind of has its own separate theme. The characters are fun. Jayna, the sister, is the more serious of the two. The brother, Zan, he's more of like a carefree kind of person. But like I said, they're both enjoyable. The story's really humorous. It has a lot of like fun stuff. If you're reading the back panels, like posters and signs and things like that in the back. So I would say it's definitely for teens. They talk about like some sexual stuff and things like that. So it's not for younger kids. It's aimed at a teen audience with teen characters mostly. And like I said, discusses some social issues that are relevant to today, which makes sense. It's only the comic's only a couple years old. So I would say if you like funny comics that tackle social issues, then this might be for you. And if you want more info on what's actually in the comic, keep watching for the spoiler review. Alright, time for the spoiler review for Wonder Twins. So this is 6 issues. The first issue, you get introduced to, which is called It Gets Murder. You get introduced to Jayna and Zan. So they're from the planet Exiled, which I don't know a whole bunch about the DC cosmic stuff, so I don't know how common Exiled is. They describe it kind of like a perfect utopia kind of place where there's no crime and stuff like that. But they did something on their home planet. They don't say what, but they kind of get exiled. So as a favor to their dad, Superman brings them to Earth, right? And so they're like teenagers going to high school, regular, as you can see, regular high school. And they're going to intern at the Hall of Justice with the Justice League. So Zane's about, he's like the cool guy. He wants to be the cool guy. He wants to be like popular in school. He has a totally ridiculous plan about getting a cool pet and like just crazy stuff. And they talk about like I would call it a crazy ridiculous thing where they're describing about their homeworld that once they hit puberty they get thunderlust, but it's like a weird thing that happens to their people when there's a thunderstorm. They go all like crazy pans. But apparently there's like a mixed pixel called this like interdimensional thunderstorm at the high school, and so Zan gets humiliated in front of like everybody at school because he goes into like thunderlust, you know. And it ended up with like Batman and Superman both telling stories about their days back in high school, kind of to make them feel better. I think the main part of this is like nobody's cool in high school. You're always going to do something stupid. It's okay. They also, it has a lot of like humor in the book. So they meet like the Justice League when they come in. They're super not impressed. Oh my god, I can't show you. Super not impressed with their powers there. They're like, oh, she can turn the animal, he can turn into water. That's not super impressive, right? And also, if you like look through it, you'll see like they have like a lot of posters all over the place and stuff in the background. They're all like pretty funny and humorous stuff as you go through the whole story. You'll see it. They meet like the supercomputer at the Justice League, which is like so old now. All they use it for is playing music, right? It's not like really a supercomputer anymore, right? So they kind of make fun of like superheroes, their villains, the high school, just like everything. So it kind of reminds me of the humor in it. Reminds me of like Spider-Man: Far From Home. Like the teachers are really like funny because it's like Jayna, the teacher, decides that she should do the announcements to try to build her self-esteem because she's shy. But they're like, well, either that or this is just the worst idea I ever had, and I'm just gonna totally crush her self-esteem by making her do this. You know, either way. So it's kind of it's pretty funny if you watch it. So that's kind of the first issue, focus around like how they got there, them going to high school, and they're running with Mitsupitzel. The second issue is called Little Boxes. It focuses on the Scrambler, who's a villain, and it cracks me up that his costume literally has an egg on it. It's not even a scrambled egg, it's an over easy egg, but whatever. Scrambler's a villain who can like cause people to switch minds, so he can switch minds with anybody. That's what his power is. So he's in jail. He breaks out of jail, or in particular, the Lexicon Prison and Call Center. He breaks out of jail by switching brains with the guards, and then tricking him to go in the cell and switch him back. Right. So when he comes out, he calls up Lex Luthor because he was in the League of the League of Villains, the League of. I think it's the League of Supervillains. Let's just go with that. DC readers know. He was in the League of Villains, but he calls up Lex, and Lex is like, you went to jail, I replaced you, but you can join this like other league, the League of Annoyance, as they call it, which is like, I wouldn't even call them B level. It's like F level supervillains. Like they can barely call themselves villains. They're more about like their super villain plans is like trolling people on the internet and that kind of stuff. And so he's kind of annoyed by them that they're not doing any real villain plans. But anyway, that's it. Kind of focuses on him in the beginning. So, and let's see what I got in here. Oh, and then the Justice League. So Justice League assigns the twins to the League of Annoyance to take down the League of Annoyance, right? And the twins are, when they learn about in the first issue and this issue, when they learn about what the Justice League do, they're kind of questioning a little bit. Like, you just arrest people and then put them in jail, and then they get back out, and you arrest them again and put them in jail and get them back out. Like, they're not impressed by Earth's justice system, I guess you could say. And so this whole issue is kind of a little bit of what do you call it? Commentary on prisons, or for-profit prisons, or the American prison system. We can't say world because this is American specific. So like it's called the Prison and Call Center. So you find out like the Honors Club, they don't have any money for their real field trip, so they found a place that'll let them visit for free, the Lexicon Prison and Call Center. So they go there and you see that they're using all the prisoners for like to be like call center reps. So pretty much they're getting like cheap or free labor out of prisoners. So you have the aspects of it that they talk about, and then you have the other aspect of like one of the League of Annoyance members is called Baron Nightblood, but they call him Count Druncula because he's like a recovering alcoholic. And if he drinks drunk people's blood, then he like goes on a binge and like bites a whole bunch of drunk people. So like the League of Annoyance convinces him to go out and like convinces him to go out and bite somebody, because he's a vampire. He's supposed to bite people, and he's all like, hey, if I, it's bad if I bite a drunk person. And they're like, go out and do this villainous thing. So he goes out, and then Jayna and Zan are, they're supposed to stop him. They bring him in to the police thing, but all the cells are full, so they tell him to take him to like a private holding place. And then they're trying to tell him, hey, like this, watch who you put this guy in with, because, he's a vampire, he's a recovering alcoholic, all that other stuff. But of course, they're like, and then they leave him there, and they're like, all the things are full. They put him in with some drunk people. He bites him. He goes, bites everybody. And he's all like, upset, because he was trying to sort of turn his life around. And it's like, nothing's working out here. Like, everything's kind of, the people he's hanging out with, the heroes, the prison thingy, it's all like situated in such a way that makes it harder for him to like stay on the straight and narrow. So that's where the little boxes come in, not just the prison, but that they put people in little boxes, right? He's a villain, he's an alcoholic, that's his box, and that's where he's gonna, like, nobody let him get out of it. So that's why I said when, each issue kind of talks about the social issue, so that's one of the things they talk about in this one. So in the third issue, it's called Monkey Business. A couple things happen. Jayna meets a girl named Polly. Let me see if I can find her picture in here real quick. Jayna meets a girl named Polly at school. And let me see if I can find that. And Zan gets a monkey. So that's what he gets. He like orders a pet monkey named I can't find the picture right now. Whose name is Gleek, right? So the main part of that is you kind of find out a backstory on Polly and her dad. So Polly's like super smart. Her dad's super smart, like Nobel Prize winning scientist who you find out works for Lex Luthor and wants to leave, but Lex Luthor's like, you owe me a butt ton of money, so you're not leaving, you're just not walking off, so you go work for the League of Annoyance for a couple years, and then I'll consider that debt paid, right? And then Zan gets a monkey, and he's all like, what could be happier than a circus monkey? And then you see the flashback to the monkey's like horribly tragic backstory. Like, he was super abused, and the monkey has like PTSD from being in the circus. Like, he was really abused in the circus. So he has, like nightmares about being in the circus and stuff. let's see. The League of Annoyance decide they're gonna track down the twins and take care of them, you know. And they end up getting captured by the League of Annoyance, and they put them in these ridiculous plastic bags to let's see if we can find it. And like ridiculous plastic bags, power neutralizing plastic bags. They're so funny. And they end up getting saved by Gook, who can, you know, he's a circus monkey. He can ride a bike. He can do like cool stuff, even though it's like triggering him literally as he's doing it. He ends up helping them get away. And so even though it's monkey business and it's about, you know, you find out the monkey, the business behind the monkey. Also, it focuses like Jayna has a real good conversation with Superman about surviving on Earth. Like, how do you survive on Earth? And so he tells her, like, it's not about having power. It's not about, having the best superpower kind of thing. The best power you can have on Earth is, like, seeing that everything is wrong with it, seeing all the messed up stuff, and somehow not going crazy. Like, realizing there's so much messed up stuff, but not letting it, like, completely drag you down, right? And so Zan throws in his thing, like, kindness is how you save the world. So he's being, nice and kind to his monkey, which sounds weird, but that monkey had a traumatizing, like, life. And so now he's somewhere good. So that's kind of, so it's just kind of, this chapter is more like things are crazy and wild, bad things are happening all over the place. At best you can do is, like, it's stay kind to other people. I guess this is the idea there. Issue 4. Issue 4 is called A Date That Will Live in Infamy. Oh, right here you can see down here in the corner, that's Polly that she meets. But issue 4 is called A Date That Will Live in Infamy. It starts with Polly and Jayna at the science fair doing their projects, right? Polly has a project about, like, the internet being super connected and maybe one day gaining consciousness, comic stuff. She went to the science fair, and then the second thing behind that is Zan and Jayna both get dates. So Zan gets a date with a girl named Debbie, who goes to school with them, and Jayna gets a date with the dude who also goes to their school, named Red, right? And right off the bat I was like, Red seems a little creepster. He's like way too smooth, you know what I mean? Like throwing out the line. So I was like, oh no. And so with the date part of it, you found out the yo-no is a no-no. So Red turns out to be a villain named Red Flag, who is a big, just giant red flag, right? He's a super jerk face. He's a jerk face. He's like Texas. He thinks he's the best things in sliced bread, like, and as you go through the day with Jayna, like, you just see he's waving all kind of red flags, besides being an actual villain named Red Flag, right? And then Zan on his date, he's going out with the girl, and she's kind of still talking about her ex, and then they meet up with her ex. They see her ex at the movie they go to, and then her and the ex are talking, and you get the whole thing, like, Zan's oblivious, you think, to the whole thing, but then at the end you realize, he's like, well, she got to be together with her ex, so things didn't work out, but we can still be friends. And versus Jayna, who eventually ditches Red because he's just too much. It's just like, no. She's like, yep, and I'm ditching you. Like, on their date, she's kind of like very accommodating, you know, like going along with what he's saying and stuff. So you're kind of worried like that she'll just go along with it, and which I think is kind of like a commentary. You say like a lot of girls and women are socialized to be very accommodating, so they'll, to avoid conflict, and they'll go along, you know, with people to avoid conflict sometimes. So you kind of think it's going there, but at the end, same kind of like for Zan, where there was a twist at the end he was just like, well, it didn't work out, so we're gonna be friends. Polly's like, this guy's jerk face. I mean, not Polly, Jayna, this guy's a jerk face. Ditching. So she ditches him, like, right? The other side of it, doing with Polly and her dad Philo. So apparently Legion of Doom. I said Legion of Villains. Legion of Doom. So the Legion of Doom apparently has a social mixer for all the villains to get together, hang out, have drinks, and Red invites Jayna, which she does know what she's going to. She figured it out when she gets there. And then Jayna invites Polly. And so Polly comes and sees her dad, Philo, there, and realizes her dad is a villain. Right? You do get the backstory on Philo Math, and how he was working for Luther. How it ended up getting his wife killed when they were trying to kill him, so that's why he wanted to quit. And of course Polly's very mad that he's still working with Luther. You know, got her mom killed, Luther's a villain, all this stuff like that. But yeah, so you kind of get that backstory there. All right, and the next issue is called Magic and Games. Right? So Polly wins that prize, right? You get more on Philo and why he ended up working for Lex, even though he's not like a villain. He ended up working for the supervillain because even though, I mean, pretty much it's just a straight up commentary on racism and hiring. People will be excited about his degrees and his experience until they saw him, and then they didn't really want to hire a black person. So he ended up working for Lex because Lex didn't care. He just cared that he was really smart and he can do, like, you know, stuff he was interested in. And let's see. They have a whole thing with well, I won't get into that part yet. So let's see. We'll talk about the Scrambler because it focuses a lot on the Scrambler and Polly in this issue. So, Scrambler apparently used to be a former magician, right? And he talks about his 3 stages of magic, right? And he has, which is like, oh shoot, I forgot what his 3 stages of magic are. 3 stages of magic. It might not. It's important, but I don't remember off the top of my head exactly what they're called. Oh, okay. So, the pledge, which is a promise to disrupt the status quo. The second one is oh wait, what's it? The next part is the turn. It says where you keep your promise and destroy everything they thought they knew, but usually he said people freak out at that point. And the last is the prestige, where you return everything back to the status quo, right? So that's his 3 stages of magic. He said, but everybody always, they don't like the part where you disrupt things. They always want stuff to go back to normal, right? So he shows up at Philo and Polly's house. He asks Philo for help with a plan that they don't show what it is in this issue. Like, he just asks him help with the plan, and then Philo's like, that's way too crazy a plan, right? And so he like end up leaving. And later on, Polly ends up helping him after her father is killed. Pretty much by like the stereotype of like a boomer Karen, a boomer racist Karen. Literally, they have a part where they call her, what do they call it? Cell phone Sylvia, like parodying, like, or I guess you call it parodying, like the media nicknaming or people nicknaming, like racist Karens doing stuff. Because you have like a whole thing. One of the League, there's a lady named Sylvia who's on the League of Annoyance that Jayna and Zan are trying to get. They challenged them to meet them up at the zoo so they can try to catch them. They catch everybody except for Sylvia. Then she's going on, in the comics bubble whole rant, pretty much about how she joined it so that she can, like, keep those people out. Which, and they make it very obvious by the drawings, those people, she means black people. So she's just kind of like an older boomer, racist, middle, upper class lady, right? She accidentally kills Philo with her Kryptonian weapon. Pretty much she's like, freaks out. She like sees a strange black man coming in. She freaks out. She doesn't realize it's Philo. She kills him and she's like, oh no, like, because she knows him, right? And then they do a whole like parody of the news media, which is called like Nilex News, where she gets to go on and tell her side of the story, and people feel so sympathetic for her, even though she like literally killed a dude that was just walking in a door, pretty much because she freaked out because he was black, right? And she ends up getting off, and at the end she's like, oh, now I can return to my life. It was so disruptive. And Polly, of course, is upset. They go on, she's upset that there's no justice for her father, that pretty much that there's no justice for her father. So she ends up deciding she's going to help the Scrambler with his plan. And you find out at the end, by hooking him up pretty much to the internet so that he can use his power like over the internet and use it to scramble people's brains. His plan is that he wants to force like the government of the world to change change the laws to make it more equitable for everybody, not just the rich or the powerful, or else he threatens he's just gonna scramble. He gives him 30 days. He said, or he's gonna scramble everybody's brain like randomly. They'll end up in who knows whose body, who knows where, doing who knows what. And so his idea would be that like people in power, he specifically says that those in power don't have any incentive, don't want to change the world, because the people who have the power to change the world don't, because they don't have any incentive to do so. But if they might end up in God knows where doing, then they will have an incentive to do so, because if they could be anybody, they can be in somebody's life who's not rich, if they can end up in that kind of life, then they have an incentive to make things more fair for everybody, because they could end up being anybody, right? So that is Magic in Games, right? The last issue is called The Great Scramble, right? So and it has the Scrambler saying, only when they realize they may become anyone will they create a world that works for everyone, right? So anybody who's on the planet, their mind's going to get scrambled. The Justice League is currently off planet because they decided they were going to go do some like cosmic superhero-y work while the villains were having their mixer, because usually like there's nothing going on Earth during mixer time, right? And so the twins are on Earth, so they're trying to work up a plan to try to find the scrambler, right? So Jayna turns into, like, they go build some of the League of Annoyance members in jail, and Jayna spies on them, figure out that they knew Philo, so he's like, so she goes to check at their place, and, you know, maybe to see if maybe he's hiding there. And Polly and Jayna have, like, a big talk about the world and how it's not fit, you know, how it's not fair for everybody. It's not, like, more equitable, and which is what the Scrambler, you know, wants to make a more equitable place. It's like there's resources, there's laws you can change and stuff to make it more equitable, but like he said, you don't have the incentive to do so. It was not in your interest, right? So he gave them their 30 days, and then they show in the comic that, like, they show the U.S. president, who was previously in league with Lex and stuff, and other world leaders. They make a lot of law changes in terms of, like, labor and let me see if I wrote down what it is. Oh, can't see. But they made a lot of different changes to laws across the entire world. So if they ended up in, like, a whole different thing, if they got switched, then they wouldn't be in such bad strait. You know what I mean? And Lex, of course, his plan, it's just to be off world so he doesn't get scrambled, right? And so the Scramblers, right before the Scrambler's gonna scramble everybody, they end up catching him, right? Well, right before, Jayna has the idea. She's like, well, do they actually need to get scrambled to have these, like, laws go into effect? They just need to sign the laws, and then we can stop them. You know, she knows that Scrambler's at Polly's place. After her and Polly's talk, she decided maybe she'll just wait until they sign the laws into effect and then stop the Scrambler, because the laws will be in effect. So even if the scramble doesn't happen, like, the threat of it was enough to change things. But the Justice League catch the Scrambler right before they sign, and of course, now that there's no threat anymore, they throw all that away, right? Because they no longer have an incentive to make anything fair, because they're not going to end up in a shitty position, possibly. And so then at the very end, and Zan end up, you know, finding out and helping them, and he didn't realize, you know, that him and Jayna didn't talk, so he didn't realize that Jayna was maybe trying to at least wait till the laws got changed before switching stuff out. But, and this chapter, I guess, is mostly about showing that it's possible that you can, through, like, legislation and law changes and things like that, that you can make things more equitable for people, so they're not living in extreme poverty or that kind of things. But they won't, if people don't have to do it, they won't do it. And they don't, because it's not about, in this story, like, the change the laws, which will be good for everybody. They only do it because they're under threat, and even if it'll make it better, if they didn't have to do it, then they rip them up. They don't have to do it. They're like, oh, thank God, we don't have to do it. But it ends, so the last issue ends on a cliffhanger, because they said, like, Polly gets arrested, Scrambler gets arrested, Polly thinks Jayna turned her in, and Jayna was like, you know, it wasn't her, she didn't actually turn them in. It was just that Zan found out where they were, and it came. And it ends on a cliffhanger, though, because Polly said the way she hooked up the Scrambler, he could just set everything off by email if he wanted to. So at the end, they're like, "You want your last phone call before, you know, you're ours?" And he's like, "No, I just want to send an email." Dun dun dun. Cliffhanger. So you can read like the next issue. In the back, they have some cool variant covers. I think I had a favorite one. I did not copy it, but I really like it. And if you can see this one, even though they look extra like Vulcan there. And also, I also like this one. I don't know. This one. I don't know why. Yeah, I just like it. So, like I said, it talks about a lot of social issues in the book with a lot of humor. So, it might be a little bit soapboxy for some, but I think for young people who are, a lot of young people, I say young people like I'm 900, a lot of teenagers are online talking about this stuff, seeing this stuff. So having it be, I mean, it's issues that a lot of teens are interested in. So I think it would be good, like I said, for somebody in high school, because I think younger, some of the stuff, not necessarily the social issue stuff, but some of the more, like I said, it had some more like teenage dating and sex kind of things. Now, when I say that, I don't mean anything graphic or anything like that, but just if somebody's real young, they'll be like, but yeah, other than that, I think it's pretty fun. So check out Wonder Twins, and see you next time.